So when we grow up, we hear a lot of stories, and we hear a lot of fairy tales, and it's fascinating for us. We love them, we are engaged in them, we see and live with the hero who goes through, challenges and then overcomes them and then finally is happy. But he or she is not only happy, she is happy ever after. So we grow up with stories who tell us that when we just try hard enough, then we will be happily ever after. And that's a thing which then stays with us. And this is the problem there already, because life is change. So it's a constant learning and adjusting. And some of that might not be so obvious for us because the body does a lot of these changes for us automatically. For example, when we go from a darker room into a lighter room, our eyes are adjusting so we can see, and also the other way around. Um, our body adjusts to different temperatures. The body digests the food and distributes nutrients. So that's all going on without us really consciously doing something. But other things which change around us, like the environment, we have seasonal changes, temperature changes, we are more aware of. And um, you can already see my point. That's not something which all of a sudden will stop. So life really is a constant adjustment, a constant learning and changing. We may start a different job or retire. We may start a family or getting married. Those are major changes in our life. And also just our own person concerning our health may change over time. Our thrives, our emotions, our wishes are changing. And so when we see life as change, and every day we have like different challenges to face, then it's really a matter of how we deal with these challenges. And this is also how we define stress. So stress is, so to say, our ability to adapt to change. And stress is defined as any type of change that causes physical or mental strain. So stress by itself is neutral. It's just something new coming in we have to deal with. Now, it depends on how what relationship we have to this change, that we either experience eustress or distress. Eustress is when we successfully can adapt. That makes us happy, we are excited. Or when we cannot adapt or as quickly or at all to that change, then we are in distress. One example Dr. John Beaulieu likes to use here is when you think of a hang glider in the air and floating, and then there is a change in wind. So if you just say, oh, I like the old wind better, I don't like this new wind, and you don't adjust the hang glider, you may crash. And the same goes with everything, all the stresses in life. So, for example, at some point a few years ago, we learned to use Zoom. And first, you're a little bit more uncomfortable with it. You don't really know how it works. You may get grumpy because it doesn't work and you don't know how, and it stresses you. So that's distress. So distress we experience when we cannot cope with that challenge. So if we cannot adapt, and what happens in our body, depending whether um, we can master a challenge or not, is very different. So if it's going into distress, there's a whole cascade of things happening in our body, releasing stress hormones, which directly affect our body and brain. However, like I said, stress itself is neutral. It really depends how we relate to it, how we can cope with these changes. Other than that, we can also say that stress is the spice of life. That's a citation of Hans Selye. He's one of the first researchers who looked into stress. The body itself is well equipped to handle stress in small doses. It's when it's long term or chronic, that's when it's getting problematic, when we cannot deal with the stressors so well anymore, so we don't feel empowered because we could deal with the situation, and then it goes more and more into feeling overwhelmed. And if there's this overwhelm and this distress, this chronic stress happens over a long period of time, then the risk that it seriously affects our body increases. So it depends how often the stressor, we have a stressor, how long, the intensity, and how many. So, for example, let's say my mother gets sick and I take care of her. Then it depends of, do I go visit her once a day and bring her something to eat, or am I living with her and it's taking weeks or maybe years? Is she just needing some help with cooking, or is it a 24/7? Do I have to bathe her, feed her, and so on? And how many of these stressors? So it's just my mother, or do I have problems in my relationship and my kid is sick and my boss is really bothering me and stressing me out because he doesn't understand the situation I'm in? So then it really adds up. And it also depends in what situation we are getting us is if we can recover in between. So do we have time to really recover? Let's say we are taking care of our mother, but we have sisters and brothers who are helping too, so we have time to recover in between. What kind of coping mechanisms we have and what kind of support. So this is the distress scale from Holmes and Rahe. And this is a questionnaire who helps us to get a little bit more of an objective measurement where we are at. So it helps us understand what our stress load currently is. And this is also the one which I sent out ahead of time. Maybe you have printed it out. If not, it's not a problem. We will do this together a little later. And so they try to quantify or make it possible to basically find out with a questionnaire what our current stress load is. So when you do this questionnaire, you answer, you see what life events you had in the past year. And then if you, for example, had a divorce, then you add 73 as a value, and then you add up and see what comes out. So stressors can be a divorce, a death, the death of a close family member, an injury or illness, but it's also positive things, because positive things like a marriage is also a big change in your life. The pregnancy, or if you start a new job, or if you're moving, those are all changes and add up to your stress load. And it comes down to even things like your kid is changing school, or you are starting university, you are starting a new job, or changing things of any sort, even diet changes, or for example, a vacation. And I don't know if that happened to you once, but I had good fights with my boyfriends back in the days on vacations. I was always wondering why, but it is a stressor, because if you're somewhere else, you're eating different, the culture may be different, and so on. So it is something that adds on. And then, so when you do this scale, you get a total number, and this is not detrimental or telling you anything you will get da 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 da. It's just in showing you the risk, the general stress load you have, and how high the risk is if you do not do anything about it. So, what impact does have stress on the body and mind? I already mentioned that stress hormones are distributed through the whole body, so it can really affect the whole body and the brain. For example, the muscles, when we are stressed, we tighten up, we tighten the shoulders, we tighten the hips, we can tighten basically almost everywhere. Often we hold this tension, especially in prolonged and chronic stress, and are not even aware of that. And this muscle tension can lead to headaches, migraines, lower back pain. So, depending on the stress load, the body is able to be in balance, or always kind of balance out or not. And one part of the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, is affected by that. It has two parts. One is more activating us, fight and flight response. You probably have heard the sympathetic, and the other one is the parasympathetic, which helps us to restore, to digest, and to rest, to go into relaxation. And when we are stressed, what happens very often is that we go more into this activation state, into the sympathetic fight and flight response, but we kind of stay there too much in relation. And so we kind of, in time, and that can happen very slowly, we lose more and more of this flexibility to go into relaxation when we want to. So we may notice that we get everything done, and we do everything, and so, but then when we just want to relax real quick, it's just really hard. We can't really relax, and that also doesn't help us with falling asleep. So then sleep difficulties may come up. We may be more hypervigilant. We may be more easily triggered or irritated. Other symptoms can be brain fog. It's harder to concentrate. And with increasing stress load, we also eat differently. We may gain or lose weight. So then, if we are really going further and further into the stress load, so at the very, not the very end, but eventually the risk for disease is getting higher, because the body and the brain adjusts to this high stress load. The body doesn't have really the time to, to all the restorative activity. We don't have enough sleep anymore, and so on. So, and then we are at high risk for diseases. So, diseases which are correlated with chronic stress and trauma are cardiovascular diseases like a heart attack or stroke, memory issues and Alzheimer, immune disorders and cancer. Then people with trauma are prone for obesity, the digestion changes, and it can go both ways. Some people may are more prone for constipation or diarrhea, and then also mental issues can evolve, and that's depression, anxiety disorders, and PTSD. Now, when it comes to the brain, especially the limbic system, so that's the part which is responsible for our emotions, fear, anxiety, but also positive emotions. And also the frontal lobe are especially a target of the stress hormones, so to say. And with longer period of chronic stress, with trauma, when things add up, then that can lead to specific changes in the brain. I don't know if you're familiar with the book The Body Keeps the Score from Bessel van der Kolk. So that's a great one when you are interested in trauma. He's a trauma expert, and he points out the body keeps the score. And this is really how you have to see it. So the body is doing its best to, be in optimal performance for you, but at some point it cannot cope with it anymore. And that's when it gets too much, too long. That's all what we said before. And at some point, then when we cannot cope with this load anymore, then we can see this diseases showing up, symptoms showing up. When it comes to brain function, we may experience that our attention is not as good, we are less focused, our working memory is not so good. That means we cannot do that many things or at once anymore. Our load we can do or we can remember at the same time is decreased. Our memory can suffer, then also decision making, analytic thinking, our stress response. So the more load we have, the harder it is then to cope with additional challenges. And like I said, it can lead to depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And so in the brain, when we think of this limbic system, so that's our areas which are active when we are feeling emotions. And so these emotional network that changes can change due to trauma and chronic stress. And so that means that we are hyper vigilant, we are always looking out for danger. And when this part of the brain is taking so much energy and activity as a basically counterpart a little bit to it, our analytic thinking, decision making, clear thinking is suffering a little bit. And there are other networks too in the brain which may be affected. And one of them is the saliency network. And that basically tells us what's going on around us. So, for example, we are, let's say someone is at home cooking with two kids and doing the thing and the one of the kids screams. So this scream will activate the salience network, will see all the information, sensory information, which will come in. The smell and auditory and visual. But this, when the scream comes in, it will activate you and attend to your kid right away. So this is good and should be like that. But when it alters due to trauma, it can get hyperactive. So that means, for example, when you got bitten by a dog when you were a child and that was really traumatic for you, then later in your life you may go for a walk with friends through the village and discussing and laughing, and then all of a sudden in the distance a, a, a dog is barking, and you will be right away activated. Watch out, where's the dog? Your friends may not even hear the dog barking, because for their brain and for their system, it's nothing important to really attend to. So when you have experienced a lot of trauma in your life, then you really, or if that load is so right now for you in the moment, then your brain is actually always watching out for additional danger, what could happen. And at the same time, like the default mode network, when adjusted, then you start overthinking things and have this endless loop thinking. So you will check out, so what else could be, or I feel these symptoms, and then you Google what illness, sickness could that be, what virus. So you can't stop it at will. It's basically something which you then more or less have to do. You can't disengage, but you also think, you are convinced that it's necessary, because that's what your system, your brain has learned. So with that, like I said, a lot has to do with the emotions. You're hyper vigilant, you get more sensitive, you're much more easily triggered, you're more vulnerable, and also, just a little thing may, and then you have it and you explode or you get anxious depending on your nature. So when we think again one more time of this chronic stress and the load we have, what then determines what happens in the next 2 years, and if we develop an health issue or symptoms, that has a lot to do also with our genetics. I like to show these backpacks because it is like backpacks. We come already so we arrive with a backpack with the genetics of our parents and grandparents, but even what our what our mother experienced during pregnancy affects us. That's also in our backpack. And then it adds up over time, our personal history. There are studies, for example, where they compare soldiers. So soldiers experience terrible things, terrible trauma. Some later on develop PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. Some don't. So now the ones who developed PTSD, they checked and they had twins, so genetically identical twins, and then they checked how they were and how their especially their hippocampus was. And so they showed that the soldiers who developed PTSD also were prone genetically more to develop it. So it's a combination of genetics and personal history. Like I said, it adds up. And then very important is, what do we do with it? what do we do in our lives? And what we can do is take care of ourselves. And this is so very important. I think we don't necessarily grow up, at least I, in my culture in Austria, I I know, yeah, self-care, at some point, it's important, but I just now know how important it really is to stay in a zone where our body and mind can take care of itself, where we can rebalance and keep this flexibility. Taking time, and many people have very little time, but if it's just 10 minutes per day, and that's consistently, that can make already a big difference. Then being aware of what you eat, taking care of your sleep as good as you can, and become conscious, what do you do with your time and energy. And it's also important to be disciplined, to really take these 10 times and put them on our schedule to do it. Because nobody can do that for you. You have to take care of yourself. You have to be the hero in your story. Yeah, and with that, I would like to invite you to fill out this stress scale. If you have printed it, you can use the print. Otherwise, I keep this slide on for you. So you can, what you have to do if you want to do it is that you think of everything that happened to you in the previous year, so a year from today in the past. And then you go through the list. And so if you got divorced in the last year, you write 73. And then if you, I don't know, you got fired at work, it's another 47. So you add that up and then find your total. Now, if you're either very fast or you have done that before, because I sent it out before, then think of the previous 5 years and do it again and see how that differs. All right. So far, so good. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll give you about, 4 minutes. Yeah, I think 5 minutes. You can, give us a thumbs up when you're done with it. Yeah, and if you're done earlier, then think of the last 5 years and then do the same again, or last 10 years. So then you get a little bit of an idea, okay, what was there already? Or did it just happen very concentrated in the last year? Yeah, maybe you can let us know when you're done, or just put it into the chat so Nisanka knows that you're done.
Oh, I was gonna say 6 years ago, I did my scoring 6 years ago, when I was going through the difficult time, and I scored over 500.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
so I had PTSD, GAD, depression, you name it. I pretty much had like a 10 different things in terms of diagnosis. So yeah, this is like spot on.
yeah, wow, yeah.
Oh, I agree. Needs a category of political turmoil.
Mm. Yes, and and it really depends. Like a divorce can be I think I've seen here, especially in California where I am at right now, their divorces, they feel like 5,000. And then if I think of the one I went through, it was, you know it it really wasn't, that bad. It can be really varying big time. So anyways, does anybody need more time? You all good? Theo, you can also give me a thumbs up since your camera is. Are you done, or do you need more time? Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Um, all right, so I will. I'm assuming that everyone is done with it, so I will go on. Um, Otherwise, I sent that out too with a link, so you can also finish it or do it again a little bit later. So what your score means is, um, you know, the more, um, the higher your score is, basically, first of all, it just means um, the more uh, important it is for you to put time into self-care. According to Holmes Rahe, um, if you have a score of 300 or above, then you are at high risk um, to develop a stress-related health concern in the next 2 years. Very important. That does not have to happen. It's just that you're at a higher risk for it. And it depends what we do with our situation. So it's important to really try to look out for support and take time for rebalancing. If you have a score of 300 or more, I would recommend for you to really find someone, find professional help, psychotherapy, engage in things like hatha yoga or sound healing, and really see uh, uh, if possible that you can make changes in your life. Um, so um, if we are off rails and have a high load of stress, then it's very important, like I said, to passively regain this flexibility. And there are things like I would call basics you have to take care of. That's take care of your sleep hygiene, rest, um, try to eat healthy, stay hydrated, maybe even some sunlight to some degree is important. So kind of these basics, and then schedule time for yourself, for your self-care, especially when you have a lot of things going on in your life, with maybe taking care of someone else, having kids, work, and so on. Really be be strict about that. And then find the right activities for you to balance out. I always I like to give this example. When I was at the university as a researcher, I, spent 10 days at the university analyzing, thinking, reading research papers, um, doing research. And then at the end of the day, I would go mountain climbing, I would jump on my bicycle, do hatha yoga, or in the morning would meditate. So that was a good balance for me. Um, on the other hand, I have a cousin, she is a fashion designer, so she's into art, so she does all that during the day. For her, a great balance was to read. So it's completely really different what you do during the day, what will balance you out. And here, this is not everything there is, but it's a little bit of an overview to give you an idea of what you could do. So, especially with trauma and in prolonged stress, um, it's good to do something physical as well, because, like I said, the body really stores this tension as well. This is why it's so fashionable nowadays to do any somatic work, but it basically means you have to see that you can get rid of any, tension and blockages in your body. So nature walks, any form of sport which works for you, going to the gym, dancing, um, gardening, or walking barefoot is good when you want to ground yourself. Walking barefoot is good because it also helps with, it grounds you, but it helps with inflammation in the body. Other option would be to be with people, to socialize, play with kids, or find social support. And then, on the other hand, professional support, psychotherapy, coaching, counseling. It's also important to be playful again. Often we lose this, lose the ability to laugh, have fun, and just make jokes. So maybe engage in creative activities, read a novel, something, or cook, do some art. This can help um, getting out of this kind of stuckness a little bit. When you want to balance your autonomic nervous system, then hatha yoga, meditation, or qigong are very good, or tai chi. Meditation is very good also for emotional balance. However, not everyone can sit down and meditate. Sometimes it's better to start with hatha yoga, for example, where there's some movement involved, or walking meditation. And yeah, then another way to balance the autonomic nervous system out is heart rate variability biofeedback. So that's where you would have to go to someone who offers that, and then with a device learn to regulate your heart rate. Massage or acupuncture also great. And then things which I engage professionally is neurofeedback and sound healing. So neurofeedback is a way to retrain the brain, and all we experience, so our thinking and behavioral patterns, have a correlate in the brain activity. So when we measure the brain activity, we can see, when we analyze it, if someone is more anxious, if someone has PTSD, or is overthinking, or is not so good at concentrating. So you can see that. Neurofeedback is science and technology based, so it uses EEG to measure the brain activity. And then when you see what activity is basically not optimal, you can learn to retrain that. So you wear a fancy cap if you do it with a lot of sensors like we do, and then you measure the brain waves. And this is the electricity the brain produces automatically. And so it's important to say that it's non-invasive. So there's no stimulation of the brain. It's just measuring it and then giving the brain feedback what it does. And this is done um, by measuring the brain in real time. And then the software sees if your brain is going into more optimal activity. For example, if it calms down the limbic system and you get calmer, then the screen will get bright and it reinforces that. So it lets the brain know, oh, that's a good thing to do. And it will automatically then produce more. It's the same when a kid starts speaking and then first words, everyone is cheered up and yippee and great or wonderful, then the kid starts talking more. So it's positive reinforcement, and that's the same way. So with this EG equipment, new feedback software, you can retrain the brain. This is often very helpful because often with talk therapy alone, it's hard to get to this really, to the limbic system, to this, what my husband always calls reptilian brain, because you cannot just tell um, your your system, your body, like, oh, be calm, when it tells you, no, there's danger, there's danger, there's danger, right? So this is a way to deal with that and retrain it. And then we often analyze before and after, and so white is good in the rows, and so you see this clearing up, and with that the symptoms lessen. People have less strong symptoms less often, and ideally they come to a point where they are well. It can be used for a variety, really anything where you can find a correlate in the brain to train with. Sleep issues, um, anxiety, PTSD, we have a lot, attention, um, and often is also used for um, peak performance. Now, sound healing we will experience in a second. I give you a little taster of it. Sound healing with tuning forks, what I will do, and you will try out in a second. First of all, it would be interesting who of you has done sound baths or sound healing before? Okay, some of you, no. Okay, so what sound healing does is it elicits a relaxation response in the body. So it really supports the autonomic nervous system to balance, the muscle tension to release. And you can see the body like an instrument. So you can basically tune your body. There are even studies showing that you can everything is vibrating, so all your organs are vibrating, and even each chemical component has a different vibration. So there is a paper where the researchers looked at brain cells, healthy brain cells and cancerous brain cells, and they could distinguish between them just by looking at their vibration. So the idea is that with in sound healing, with these vibrations, the body gets in resonance with it, which supports it to release any tension, and on a vibrational level restore harmony. With more harmony, all the energy flows better, and it correlates with well-being. There's very little research regarding sound therapy or sound healing. So you see here, it's just anecdotal evidence, what clients say, but it helps release tension, support sleep. People have a benefit who are suffering from anxiety and PTSD. It can help with mood or sometimes people feel stuck, and with that, sometimes it helps people to get out of that and move on in their life. In general, people, when I do sessions with them, they feel more relaxed and also have more energy afterwards. All right. And with that, I would like to give you a little taster of that. So usually what I do is that I ask people to make themselves comfortable to, be on a sofa chair or even lie down. And it's also fine to just sit. You can also use this like a meditation and really just concentrate on the sound. I'll just grab my equipment here and I will just stop sharing here so you can see me a little better. So I'm getting my forks here. They look like so. And it's really, you can do that with just 2 forks, but I think I become a sound hoarder. So I have different forks which I like to use. And so during the next few minutes, I just want to invite you to make yourself comfortable. And if you like, you can close your eyes. You don't have to, however, what works best for you. All right. Okay, so I always like to start with a few deeper breaths. So if you like, you can close your eyes and then breathe a little deeper into the belly, a little bit more conscious. And then breathe down and out. So when you breathe out, imagine to breathe out down the legs and feet into the earth. Breathing into the belly. And then breathe down the legs and feet into the earth. And take a few more of those deeper breaths. And when you breathe down and out, you can let go of anything which no longer serves you. Any tension in your body, any thinking behaviors which no longer serve you. And then breathing down and out. And then I will, you can take another 1 or 2 of those, and I will start here with a little gong. And don't worry if you hear a little or a little bit more, just take it how it is. And just concentrate on what you're hearing, be the observer. And then let your body breathe however it wants to breathe. So those are all frequencies which are found in nature. They relate also to the perfect fifth in classical music. They have also a lot of overtones, these specific forks, which were called in literature the gateway to heaven. If you ever become aware that you hold your breath, then just take another deep breath and then breathe down and out. Know that you can let go anything. You can imagine that Earth is neutralizing everything for you. And then you can, if you like, take another of these deeper breaths, breathing down the legs and feet into the earth. And you can slowly open your eyes again and come back to the here and now. So I hope you like that little taster. And yeah, if you like, great, thank you. If you like, just yeah, here I'm open for questions now, feedback. Let me know how you're doing. And thank you for your attention so far. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I love that. I could sit there and sort of all day just absorbing all of that beautiful energy and frequency change. My energy was releasing a lot and I was yawning a lot.
Great.
Feel a lot lighter. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Yeah, so that's can be signs that you start yawning, or you get warm or cold, or sometimes the belly starts grumbling. So those are all signs that your energy is adjustment, and you're getting more into relaxation mode. Yeah, works. Okay. All right. Have a great day. It was really nice to have you, and yeah, be well.